Hey everybody, Alex Kazora, SteelersDepot.com, back with the Pittsburgh Steelers preview and prediction for their Sunday game, week number 10 against the Green Bay Packers. Pittsburgh 5-3 on the season, Green Bay 3-5. Let's talk about this game. And really quickly before we do that, if you guys could like this video, also subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate that. But let's start with this Packers offense. They remind me in a lot of ways of kind of the current Steelers offense, but even more so probably last year's version of the offense. More competency overall, but a very young group trying to find their way, find their identity. That's what I'm referring to. And you got Jordan Love, who's been in the league for a couple years, but first year full-time starter, replacing Aaron Rodgers. It's a more veteran backfield of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, but really young at the receiver and tight end position. Second-year guys in Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, their leading receiver, rookies in Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, the tight end Luke Musgrave. There's talent, there's athleticism. They're trying to just figure it all out. These guys are all 24 years old or younger, and you're going to have some growing pains to come along with that. So the run game is certainly what they want and need to be. Aaron Jones is healthy, had a hamstring injury, suffered in week 1. They're going to use him. They're going to use Dillon in a fairly even split. Jones did have a lot more carries last weekend to win over the Rams 20-9. But you're going to see some pony backfields. You're going to see those guys both be in the backfield. They're both on the field. Split back looks. Maybe they're going to motion somebody out. Jones, more of a receiver type than Dillon, but Dillon's, short yardage. The hammer, he's 250 pounds coming out of Boston College. And so you got to deal with those guys. The line's had some injury. I think they're looking relatively healthy for this game. Melton Jenkins will play. There's also some youth up front. Can Watt and Highsmith went against those tackles. The second-year guy in Zach Tom at right tackle. The left tackle's been a little banged up as well, so that might be the area to take advantage of. But yeah, it's a zone scheme. They're going to run some taunts. It's kind of varied overall. Pass game, they're pretty vertical type of offense. They want to try to spread the field out vertically and horizontally. And there's some athletes. The one guy to really watch for is Christian Watson. Second-year guy from North Dakota State. He had a really strong rookie year. He's a height, weight, speed, physical freak. Was slowed by an injury to start this year. And so I think there's athleticism there. There's versatility there that might match up well against Pittsburgh if Jordan Love can be protected. He's been sacked quite a bit this year, including 8 times over the last 2 games. And if they're playing behind the sticks, getting in a third and long, the run game can't be there, then that's going to spell trouble for Love, who's got 8 interceptions this year. Does have 12 touchdowns, but 6 of those came over the first 2 weeks of the season, and really their offense has struggled as of late. They're not putting up points the way that they did in weeks 1 and week 2. So Pittsburgh should match up well if they can stop the run. Defensively, I like the Packers' defense, but they're missing or are likely to miss some key pieces, notably their top cornerback, Jair Alexander. 2-time Pro Bowl. He's got a shoulder injury. He is doubtful for this game. Also, linebacker Quay Walker, second-year guy from Georgia, really athletic, good player. He is doubtful with a groin injury. Neither practice at all during the week. And so I think Alexander in particular is a really heavy blow for them to probably lose because without him, their outside corners are looking really shaky. They got a 7th-round rookie in Carrington Valentine, who's a long kind of press type of corner, but he's still a rookie. And they got Corey Ballantyne opposite of him and probably going to rely on some other backups to potentially rotate in. So on paper, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, those guys should really be targeted a lot. That's where Pittsburgh's passing game, it always runs through those guys. They're an outside passing team, have been for many, many years now, but especially this year. So, Pickens, I think, will get the ball. Just given the last 2 weeks, him not getting enough looks, and there's some stuff he has to capitalize on, but I imagine you're going to see a healthy dose of George Pickens in this game, because if there's a matchup to exploit, it's the strength of the Steelers' offense, their outside receivers, versus what appears to be the weakness of that Packers defense, which is their outside corners. Of course, run game is where things start for the Steelers. They ran for $166 against Tennessee in week number 9. That's one reason why the offense looked more crisp, more efficient, although there were still some execution issues. Kenny Clark, their nose tackle for the Packers, I think he's going to play. That's not set in stone. He has a shoulder injury he suffered in week 9. He's questionable as of this recording here on Friday night, but he's one of the top interior defensive linemen in football. He's primarily a run stuffer, but he's got 4 sacks. He can certainly get after the quarterback. He plays in sub-package, plays on third down, and so I don't want to put him into a box of being just a rundown kind of guy, but he's somebody that can really wreck your game plan. I think overall the Packers do a good job of slanting and stunting and trying to create some chaos up front. It's there's a risk and a cost to that if it doesn't work out and they kind of get out-gapped and out-leveraged. But if you're Pittsburgh, you don't want to do just one thing in your run game, but I think the zone schemes are going to be more difficult to pull off and more risky to pull off, because whenever you get teams like Green Bay that like to slant and they'll do some run stunts and they'll crash the end inside and kind of try to blow things up, that's going to ruin or at least strain and stress that zone track that the zone schemes, inside zone schemes, are made up of. And so I think if you're going more kind of man and power, you're going to have a better time. But still, just watch out for the run stunts and those ends in general. They got some pedigree guys and Gary and Van Ness and others. And so, the run game has to be crisp, and Pittsburgh has to be ready to adjust on the fly. Just quick note to go back to the secondary. A lot of zone, get a lot of cover 3 overall. They do like to rotate their safeties. They'll present too high pre-snap and then spin down. There are some injuries in the secondary. I think Rudy Ford's going to come back, so that maybe will give them some more flexibility than what they've had. Darnell Savage has been hurt. He's on IR, will not play in this game. So just have to anticipate the post-snap rotations and different looks that you're going to get, especially on third down. You're going to get occasional funky stuff. They are kind of a pressure team overall. They're blitzing about a third of the time, one of the higher rates in football, similar to Pittsburgh. So they're gonna bring some pressure, but they'll drop out too. I watched a snap against, I think it was Minnesota or the Rams, where they rushed literally two people, drop 9 in the coverage, and they'll drop 8 sometimes as well. And the last note, just to address here from the defensive standpoint, is watch out for those batted passes. The Packers D-line and edge guys have 11 pass deflections this year. Their rookie defensive tackle, Carl Brooks, who I was a fan of coming out of Bowling Green, has 4 of them, including 2 in this last game against the Rams. So just want to watch out for that in the quick game, the slants, especially because those guys will get their hands up. They're long, they're athletic, and so those guys can make some plays. So don't want one of those to get batted on third down, or something that pops up in the air, gets picked off. The Packers defense has not created many takeaways. That may be the difference in this one, because Pittsburgh's defense certainly is capable of doing that. Last thing to note, because it's really important, the Packers' return game is excellent. Rich Bisaccia, their special teams coordinator, is one of the best in football. They got a all-pro kick returner in Nixon. He leads the NFL in kick return average. I know kick returns aren't what they were, but this guy's aggressive because he's got the resume to justify being aggressive. So the coverage guys have to be excellent in this one. There are some injuries where your inside linebacker depth's a bit tested. I think Tariq Carpenter is going to get called up here, former Packer, and play. So those guys really have to contain the return game. Harvin's got to be able to, get good hang time and directionally play some of these. If they do something different with Boz in terms of where they want the ball to go, he's got to be on point. So special teams, got a couple of old school coaches in Bisaccia, and of course Danny Smith for Pittsburgh. So don't want to forget about that, because that could turn the tide of a game of a long return or something, like that. So for my prediction in this one, I am going to go Pittsburgh 24-16. Technically would be the Steelers' largest win of the season, a whole 8 points, but I just think defensively they're going to force some takeaways. They're going to contain the run well enough with Cam Hayward back, and Jordan Love's going to throw some picks, and I just love the matchup, and hopefully it plays out like this, of course, but I love the matchup with Johnson and Pickens on those rookie, young, not as talented corners for Green Bay, and that secondary for the Packers without Alexander looks like something Pittsburgh can exploit. So not a must-win, but you have a couple of big AFC North games coming up with Cleveland and Cincinnati following this Packers game, so to be 6-3 going into that obviously would be huge in this very competitive AFC North. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you guys listening. Again, please like this video. Also subscribe to the channel, and we'll have a lot of analysis after the game and throughout the week. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.